Friends, it has been 2 years since Dr. Najwa's husband passed away. Dr. Najiva gave alms to a beggar at the mosque every day. One day, a beggar said to Dr. Najwa, "Marry me." So what did Dr. Najwa say? But friends, the story is very exciting and will end together in a way you could never imagine. In the story, it turned out that the beggar is before continuing. Do not forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel to enjoy new exciting stories. Write in the comments where you are watching from: Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Morocco, or Iraq. We want to know. So, let's continue. Outside the old mosque in the city of Riyadh, where worshippers gather in the morning and evening and the call to prayer is heard, every day there sat a beggar. His face was covered in dust and dirt. The clothes are torn and old, and there is a strange sadness in the eyes. He sat on the steps of the mosque, begging for alms from passers-by. But his gaze was always directed towards the main entrance of the mosque, as if he was waiting for someone. Every morning at exactly 7 a.m., a black luxury car would stop in front of the mosque, and Dr. Najwa Abdul Rahman, known in Riyadh as Dr. Najwa, would step out. She was a renowned cardiologist, renowned not only for her medical skill, but also for her generosity and compassion. Every day she came to the mosque to pray and afterward gave the beggar some money. This was her daily habit. The beggar took the money, nodded his head in gratitude, and remained silent. Dr. Najwa smiled at him and got into the car to go to the hospital. On the outside, Najib's life seemed perfect. The largest hospital in Riyadh, a luxurious villa, respect in society. But only her close ones knew that their husband, Yasser Abdurrahman, died 2 years ago in a mysterious accident. Yasser was a software engineer, and his death broke Nazva from the inside. However, she immersed herself in her work and in her daily visits to the mosque and giving alms to the beggar. For her, this was more than just charity. In his sad eyes, she saw something connected to her personal pain. One day when the sky was covered with black clouds and a light rain was falling, the Lord gave the beggar money, as usual. But that day he said something that shocked her. In a hoarse, quiet voice, he asked her to marry him. Najiva stopped and looked at the beggar. There was no joke on his face, whether he was crazy or whether this was his last hope. She laughed softly and said, "You say you're screwed. Take this extra money and get out of the rain." But the beggar did not take the money, looked deeply at Najwa, and silently lowered his head. That day, when Najwa arrived at the hospital, she couldn't stop thinking about his words. His words worried her. She saw something in his eyes that reminded her of Yas. Returning home that evening, she thought that perhaps she was fantasizing too much. He is just a beggar. The next day she tried to give him money again, but he refused and said, "Dr. Najwa, I can do something for you. Give me a chance." Najwa was a little angry. "Look, I'm helping you, but that doesn't mean you can say whatever you want. Stay within limits." But the beggar did not give up. "I know you think I'm crazy, but listen to me. I can do what no one else can." There was a strange confidence in his words. Najwa looked at him for a long time and said, "Okay, tell me what you can do." He replied quietly, "Dr. Najwa, there is a large drug smuggling network operating in Riyadh. I can give you information about it." Najwa chuckled. Nishia knows about the drug network, but her medical intuition stops her. If this is true, she could tell the police. He said that last night he saw people talking about drug deals at an old warehouse near the mosque and described the place and some of them. Najwa was initially skeptical, but passed the information on to a police officer she knew. The next day, police said they had searched the warehouse and found a large quantity of drugs. Najwa was surprised how a beggar could get such accurate information. She decided to talk to him at the mosque. When she arrived, he was sitting there. She asked, How did you get this information? Who are you really? Hesmaladdin said, Dr. Najwa, I am not what I seem. I know this city is better than you. His words were cryptic and further confused the situation. Over the next week, the beggar gave her information about minor and major crimes, which always turned out to be correct. Najwa stopped, seeing him as just a beggar. She realized that there was a big secret behind this man, but she knew she shouldn't rush things. Over time, a strange connection developed between them. Najwa stopped, giving him money. Now they were just talking. Sometimes he said things that reminded her of Sarah. One day he said, Dr. Najwa, do you remember how you said that drinking tea on the steps of the mosque has a special taste? Najwa was shocked. She said, It's just me who's throwing up sulfur. But she quickly pulled herself together and smiled, not paying attention. One evening, when Najwa was returning late from the hospital, her car broke down. Suddenly, it started raining heavily, and the road was empty. Suddenly, a beggar appeared, as if he knew that she needed help. He examined the car and after a few minutes, started it. He said, Dr. Najwa, don't go out alone at such a late hour. There was a strange alarm in his voice. That evening, Najiva invited the beggar to her home. At first he refused, but after her persistence, he agreed. At home, she gave him food. While eating, he said, Dr. Najiva, this food and this taste remind me of very old memories. Najiva's heart beat faster, but she did not ask questions. The next day, she called in her old friend, a forensic expert named Ramya Artpar Ramaya looked closely at the photograph of the beggar taken secretly and said, Najwa, this face looks familiar to me, but I'm not sure. I need to do some tests. Najwa asked Ramya to take samples from the beggar's clothes for DNA testing, but she was confused and did not want him to feel suspicious of her. One day, Najwa invited the beggar to her home and said, I want to give you a new start. You can live here with me. At first he refused, but eventually he agreed. She thought that if she kept him close, she might find out his secret. The beggar, who said his name was Sami, began living in a small room at the back of the house. But during the day, he still went to the mosque to beg for alms and returned in the evening silently. Najiva often asked, Sami, why do you go to the mosque? I can give you everything you need. But he just smiled and said, Dr. Najwa, the mosque is my world. There I see and hear everything. One day, Najiva received an urgent call from the hospital. A fire broke out at a major pharmaceutical company in Riyadh. It was the same warehouse that the police had searched a few weeks ago. According to Sami, Najiva contacted a police officer who was at the scene. He said the fire destroyed much of the warehouse, but some documents remained intact, including a photograph of a man who looked very much like Yasser with writing on the back, Yar 2022, pharmaceutical deal. Najwa's heart began to beat violently. She saved the photo and returned home. She couldn't sleep that night. Was it really Yasser? How is this possible? After all, Yasser died in a car accident, and the police identified his body. How did this photo end up here, and what does a pharmaceutical company have to do with it? The next day, Najwa decided to talk to the Asami, but he was not in the mosque. She tried to find him, but he seemed to disappear into thin air. She began to worry that something had happened to him or that he had seen something that had caused him to go into hiding. In the evening, returning home, Najiva found Sami sitting at home. His face was sad, and his clothes were even dirtier. She asked him irritably, Sami, where have you been? I was looking for you. Sami quietly replied, Dr. Najwa, I had things to do, don't worry. Najwa was about to ask him about the photo, but stopped herself. She felt that he was hiding something. She asked, Sami, do you know this pharmaceutical company? He looked into her eyes for a moment, then looked down and said, Dr. Najwa. In this city, everyone knows who the powerful people are. This further increased the Najwa's suspicion. In the following days, she began her own investigation into the warehouse fire. She discovered that the fire was arson, and all the evidence pointed to a mysterious man who had been a witness at the warehouse the night before. Najwa asked her police friend to keep an eye on the Sami. She was informed that he goes every night to an old ruin near the mosque where he meets some people. Nadiva visited the ruins herself and found old documents there that spoke of the illegal dealings of the pharmaceutical company. But what struck her most was an old letter with the name Yasser. The letter read, "Yar, you must hide the truth. They will never forgive you." Najiva froze. Was I Sir alive? Or was this part of another game? Nadiva decided to meet the owner of the pharmaceutical company, face to face. But first she had to get Sami to tell the truth. One evening, Najiva invited Sami to her home, showed him a photograph, and sternly asked, "Who is this Sami? Who are you really?" Sami looked closely at the photograph. A strange spark appeared in his eyes. He said, "Dr. Najwa, there are some questions that only time can answer, but I promise I will not harm you." Najwa got angry and said, "Sami, I am a doctor and I deserve to know the truth. If you don't tell me, I will call the police." Sami just smiled and replied, "If you hand me over to the police, you will never know the truth you are looking for." That night, Sami gave Nadva new information. There is a secret basement in the office of a pharmaceutical company, where all their illegal evidence is stored. Najiva immediately reported this to her friend at the police. Police raided the office and found a huge amount of evidence in the basement: drugs, money laundering, and documents that repeatedly mentioned Yasser's name. After the search, some of the company's employees were arrested, but Najwa's mind remained in turmoil. Sami became even more mysterious, sometimes disappearing at night and returning in the morning as if nothing had happened. Najwa called her friend, forensic expert Rama, and asked when the DNA test results would be ready. Rami replied that the results would be available in 2 days. Najwa thought these results might reveal the truth about the Sami. That same night, Nadiva received a call from an unknown number. A heavy voice came from the other side. "Dr. Najiva, you are very smart, but getting closer to the truth is expensive. Leave it alone otherwise." And the Callan did. Najwa realized that Sami was an ordinary beggar, but there was no turning back. Najiva's mind was occupied with the mysteries of the Sami. Every night she sank into thought. Who is Hirali? Why do his words and behavior constantly remind her of Yasser? But she understood that the truth about the Sami would not be revealed easily. Meanwhile, Sami, who now lives in a house on the farm, became more and more mysterious. During the day, he went to the mosque in old beggar's clothes, talked to people, and quietly returned home. But there was a strange calm in his eyes, as if he had found an important answer. Najwa decided not to wait any longer and called her police friend Inspector Whale to devise a plan to keep an eye on Sami. She didn't know that this observation would lead to a truth that would change her life forever. Together with Inspector Whale, Najiva developed a surveillance plan to find out where Sami goes at night and who she meets. Every word and movement of Sami seemed like a mystery to him, hiding the pain in his eyes and his mysterious words. She was particularly concerned about a photograph found in a pharmaceutical company's warehouse. Everything pointed to a big secret. But Najivaja didn't yet know who Sami really was. It was her husband, Yasser Abdurrahman, who was officially declared dead 2 years ago. Yasser did not die in the car accident. He became a victim of a deep conspiracy. The pharmaceutical company, that Sami often spoke about doing illegal things, while the same company where I, Serbo, was a software engineer. He was trying to uncover a drug smuggling and money laundering network, led by company owner Rames al-Khalidi. Ramis plotted to kill Yasser, but Yasser miraculously survived, faked his death, and hid in the shadow world of Ariad, disguised as a beggar. And sitting outside the mosque, to watch the Najwa from afar without revealing his identity. Heck knew that if he showed up, Romes and his gang would not only kill him, but also harm Jua. As Sami, Yasser secretly worked to destroy Romez's business, and with the help of Najiva, gradually made progress in his mission. The next evening, Najiva and Whale began to follow Sami. As usual, Sami left the mosque and walked through the dark alleys of Ariad. Najwa and Whale kept the car at a distance to avoid arousing suspicion. These steps themselves were quick. He looked back frequently, as if expecting to be followed. Finally, he stopped at an old, dilapidated warehouse, the same one that had burned down a few weeks ago. Najwa's heart began to beat faster. The foxes came to meet someone or gather new information. Whale gave the sign for the bastard to quietly approach the warehouse. They saw Sami standing against the wall, next to the collapsed part of the building, talking to a tall, thin man with a beard and a quiet voice. Najwa tried to hear the conversation, but the words were unclear. Suddenly, the man handed Sami a small package and quickly disappeared into the darkness. Whale said, "Najova, we need to see this package. There might be proof in there." But Najiva's attention was focused on the behavior of the Sami. He put the package in his pocket and entered the warehouse. Najwa and Whale waited a bit, then went inside too. It was dark inside. The air was thick with the smell of burnt wood and chemicals. Najwa felt afraid, but she didn't want to stop. In the corner of the warehouse, Sami sat at an old table and studied documents. Najwa looked at him quietly and saw that he had opened the package. There were photographs and a USB drive. Sami looked at the photographs carefully and then burned them. Najwa didn't understand why he did it, whether he was trying to hide evidence or something else. Whale pulled Najwa back and said, "Now is not the time to talk to him. If he is involved in a larger network, we need more evidence." Najwa nodded, but inside she was confused. The behavior of the Sami became increasingly mysterious. The next day, Najwa tried to talk to Sami in a normal manner. He ate quietly and went to his room. Najwa noticed that he left the USB drive in his pocket. When Sami fell asleep, she quietly climbed into his room and took the drive, connecting it to her computer. There were many files on the drive: audio recordings, photos, and videos. Najwa listened to the audio recording first. Two people were talking. She recognized one of the voices. It was Ramazal Khalidi, whom she had met at a charity event. Another voice belonged to an unknown person who was telling Romez about some project. If this leaks out, we'll all be in danger. Anyone who works in software has seen a lot. Rames replied, "We have eliminated him, but we must be careful." The Najiva's heart began to beat wildly. Was this man a Yasser? Photos showed Romez and others preparing packages of drugs in a warehouse. But the last photo shocked Najwa. It was Amen with a clouded face, but his eyes and gait reminded her of I Am Gray. Under the photo was the caption 22. Operation Darkening. Najwa opened the video file. Ramis was talking to a man whose face was not shown. "You have done well, but if you betray us, we will not spare your wife." The man replied, "I will do as I promised, but keep Najwa out of it." Najwa held her breath. It was Sami's voice, but how could he know her name, and why was he talking to Ramez? Najiva's mind was in confusion. Who is Samiand? What is his connection to all this? Cher turned the USB drive to Sami's pocket and began to think about her next step. She no longer trusted Sami, but there was truth in his words that did not allow her to stop. Sami, that is Yasser, played a double game with Ramez. He faked his death to destroy Ramez's network from within. He knew that Najiva was getting closer to the truth and tried to protect her, but Ramez began to reveal Sami's true identity and ordered his men to keep an eye on him and also prepare to attack Najwa. The next day, Najwa received a call from Rame. The DNA test results came in, but he couldn't give them over the phone, and asked me to come to the office. Without saying anything to Sami, Najiva went to Rama. He gave her an envelope and said, "Najiva, these results can change your life. Look at them carefully." Najwa opened the envelope, but at that moment the phone rang. It was Wael, his voice trembling. "Najwa, wherever you are, come out immediately. Sami was kidnapped, and I think these are Ramaz's people." Najwa's heart sank. She put the envelope in her pocket and immediately rushed to help Wael. At this time, Ramaz's men took Sami to an abandoned place. Rames was there and said to Sami, "Did you think you could deceive us? Tell me, who are you really?" Sami smiled and replied, "I am the one who will put an end to you." His eyes, his mysterious words and behavior constantly reminded her of Yasser, but she still did not know the truth. Sami is her husband, Yasser Abdurrahman. As previously revealed, it is Sir who faked his death to take down a drug smuggling network run by pharmaceutical company owner Ramez al-Khalidi. Yasser watched Najwa from afar, protected her, and secretly worked to destroy Ramez's affairs. However, Rams began to reveal Sami's true identity and planned to get rid of him. Najwa and Wael arrived at the abandoned place where Ramez's men had brought Sami. It was an old, dilapidated factory on the outskirts of Ariadar. The rain intensified, and the lightning made the factory walls look even more ominous. Wael took out his gun and motioned for Jueto stay behind, but she refused and said that she had to see Sami. There was determination in her voice. Inside the factory, Sami was tied to a chair while Rama stood before him with a cruel smile. "Tell me, who are you?" repeated Rames. "Now I am sure that you are not a beggar, but someone who works in software. Isn't that you?" "I am Sir Abdurrahman." Sami looked deeply at Ramez, as if reading his soul. Suddenly, the door of the factory burst open, and Wael and his team rushed inside. "Raise your hands!" Wael shouted. Ramez's men tried to raise their weapons, but when they saw the large number of police, they retreated. Najwa rushed inside, and when she saw Sami tied up, her heart sank. She walked over and began to free him. "Are you okay?" she asked with tears in her eyes. Sami looked at Najwa, and for the first time, a deep peace replaced the sadness in his eyes. "Dr. Najwa," he said quietly, "you are always busy saving others, but today you saved me." The police handcuffed Ramez and his men. Wael reported to Jwa that the evidence from the USB drive and the information themselves helped to completely destroy the network Rameza. "Whoever this man was, he helped us a lot," Wael said. Najwa led Sami out of the factory. The rain eased and the first rays of the morning sun began to appear in the sky. She took out the envelope with the DNA test results she had given Rama and opened it. It was clearly written there that the sample matched Yasser Abdurrahman's notes with an accuracy of 99.9%. Naju's hand trembled. She looked at Sami, who was standing a few steps away, looking at the steps of the mosque. His eyes were wet. Najwa sighed quietly. "I am, sir. Is that you? Isn't that right?" He took a deep breath, looked at her and replied, "Dr. Najwa, I left everything to protect you. I didn't want you to know the truth because it could put you in danger. But perhaps the time has come." Tears flowed from Najwa's eyes. She hugged Yasser. At that moment, all doubts and pain disappeared. "Why did you leave me alone?" she asked. Yar replied, "I was never far away. Every morning at the mosque I saw your smile. She kept me alive." A few weeks later, Najwa and Yasser were sitting on the steps of the mosque where they had previously drunk tea. Yasser was no longer dressed like a beggar. He put on his old clothes. The face was clear, but the eyes retained that same sparkle that Najiva had always loved. "What now?" asked Najiva. Yasser smiled and said, "Now we will start over, but this time without secrets. The sounds of the mosque bells echoed around them, and the morning light fell on their faces. Najwa took Yasser's hand, and they looked at each other as if to speak. Now everything is fine,